Video games are pretty fun. I mean, look at this disc. That's a good looking disc right there. But have you ever thought, man, if only I had an obnoxious oversized box I could use to play it? Oh my god. Yes, the video game console. My favorite thing to hate that I just can't possibly hate. On one hand, they're objectively worse than PCs. On the other hand, they don't have as big of libraries as PCs. But to be fair, you're not gonna catch a PC running Star Fox Guard. Yeah, f you, Windows. Honestly, as the years have gone on, I've felt less and less of a reason to keep buying consoles, and yet they will always be my default, favorite, most iconic way to play games. I think it's just more appealing to have a shiny little thing made just for its purpose than it is to play on the machine you use for everything else. Either way, now is an appropriate time to talk about consoles, as we're just beginning the 9th console generation with the recent release of the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, and what better way to celebrate than to not talk about them? Today, instead, I want to look at the generation we're leaving behind and see how each console ended up from my perspective. We'll be talking about the consoles themselves, their game lineups, how they impact the future of each brand, all that stuff. And do keep in mind that I just said my perspective, as in it's completely fine if you love a console I don't, or hate a console I love. Also, right off the bat, I'm going to make the possibly controversial move to exclude the Wii U. Nintendo honestly doesn't really follow the generation format, and I generally consider Sony and Microsoft to be the ones who decide when a new one starts, so I think the console predating the PS4 and Xbox One is reason enough to leave it out. Now you may say, wait a minute, that would mean it's part of the 7th generation, and that makes even less sense, and to that I respond that I'm giving you a chance to forget the Wii U ever existed, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. And I think it would be kind of weird to have 2 Nintendo consoles here. The point is, I'll talk about the Wii U another day, but for now, let's kick things off with the Xbox One released on November 22nd, 2013, and damn, what a console. I mean, you wouldn't even believe just how many games it has. Rare Replay? Corgan? But don't worry guys, I'm sure I'll find a use for it. I have tons of consoles. For example, not an Xbox One. Yeah, we've reached a bit of a pickle right off the bat. I don't have this thing. But if you think about it, isn't that really the perfect review I could give it? This console was such a monumental failure that I, someone whose mouth produces 98% video game talk, the other 2% being saliva, could not see a single reason to buy one. The pre-launch fiascos about the thing not supporting used games and requiring a constant internet connection were certainly the wrong foot to start off on. But that's not the end of the world. In fact, usually it's not that big of a deal in the long run. What is a big deal is taking years to add backwards compatibility for only some games and investing in damn near 0 quality exclusive titles. I'm sure Rare Replay is fantastic. I mean, it's a 30-in-1 deal, and some would say that games like the Banjo classics are worth that on their own. But they're old. There's nothing wrong with your console having old games. In fact, we'll get into one later that is damn near known for doing that. But when both of your only 2 selling points are just ways to let me play stuff I already have, why wouldn't I just play them on the consoles I already have them for? The only thing keeping Xbox relevant right now is Game Pass, which, to be clear, is an incomprehensible deal for its price. So incomprehensible, in fact, that it's pretty much a guarantee that it will not last in its current state. Also, it's on PC. What the f is wrong with this company? Do you want me to buy your console or not? At the very least, I never heard about any hardware issues with the one. I guess that's a positive. Hey, so we just finished up the first test drive of that new car. We got flames coming out of the exhaust pipe, and the air conditioner is filling the cabin with CO2, but it doesn't explode, so ship it. It goes without saying that this console sits at the bottom of the ranking in terms of sales and my opinion of it. It's a bona fide flop, and that's why it only sold 50 million consoles? I gotta say, didn't expect it to be that high. Maybe 49 million disappointed customers? I don't know. Regardless, it seems that they're headed in the right direction with the Series X. And hey, if they can grab more than one compelling exclusive and bring that backwards compatibility to most original and 360 games, they might just have my money. We'll see. The PlayStation 4 released on November 15th, 2013, but I wouldn't grab one until around the end of 2016 with the release of the PS4 Pro. And I know what you're gonna ask. What, did you buy the console just so you'd have one when the Insane Trilogy came out? I'm a bit conflicted when it comes to the PS4. On one hand, it has a massive pile of great games, but on the other hand, I kind of despise this thing. If this generation will be known for anything, it'll be the moment when console hardware became unreliable, sometimes borderline unusable garbage. If you took all the Crash games out of the picture, the time I've actually spent with this thing is minuscule because I feel like I can barely trust it. I would count up the actual playtimes for you to give you an idea, and I'd especially love to flex my CTR playtime, but this console, in the year 2020, doesn't track playtimes. F this thing, dude! First of all, why is just figuring out what the f it's doing a goddamn Little Orphan Annie decoder process? I've had this thing for like 4 years, and yet I could tell you that orange is sleep, be sure to drink your Ovaltine, and one of the colors surely has to mean screeching like a banshee because holy sh*, run anything more complex than f***ing Pong and I can't hear myself think. Hey, throwback to that time it failed to install a system update and made me do hard resets and force it to install the previous firmware just to try again. Hey, throwback to that time I spent easily 50 plus hours playing CTR and then it corrupted my save file and uploaded the corrupted file to the cloud so I couldn't download a clean version. Hey, throwback to that time when I took a disc out and put another one in and the disc reader just gave out, making it unable to read discs on its own ever again. Hey, throwback to that time I looked up why my console won't read discs anymore, and the response I got was, they all just do that at some point, try hitting it after you put the disc in, and it was the actual f***ing solution, so now I have to kick its ass every time I want to play a game. Needless to say, I am filled with almost nothing but vitriolic loathing for this thing in regards to the console itself, but as I said, this game library is way harder to complain about. You have almost every multiplat of this generation to choose from. If you buy PS Plus, you get multiple free games per month, sometimes including new releases, and the exclusives? Oh, the exclusives. You've got God of War, you've got all 4 Uncharted games, you've got Spider-Man, you've got Ghost of Tsushima, you've got Persona 5, you've got Bloodborne, you've got the Ratchet & Clank remake, you've got the Final Fantasy VII remake. Do I need to go on? I'm not saying all these games are absolute appeal to everyone system sellers, hell, half of them I just listed hardly even appeal to me, but you can't understate the importance of having so many big titles waiting for you here, and only waiting for you here. Find Chim Party somewhere else, I f***ing dare you. But of course, as I alluded to, the real reason I find myself coming back to it over and over is the Bandicoot. I know none of them were PlayStation exclusive, but like, weren't they? I mean, sure, you could buy Crash Bandicoot games on Xbox, but I'm not one to break the 10 commandments like that. All 3, or I guess 5, of these games made me happier than most any that released this generation, and aside from CTR, could not have been played by me at launch without this big hulking piss stick, so for that, I guess I have to be grateful. At reportedly over 110 million consoles sold, the PS4 is ending its life as the second best-selling home console of all time, only losing to the original DVD player. It's obviously achieved massive success that, despite my frustrations with it, I can't say it doesn't deserve. And it goes without saying that this makes things look good for the PS5. Just being backwards compatible means it already has access to the aforementioned insane library of the 4, and if they keep up the pace with these awesome big budget compelling exclusives, it may end up with just about the best playable game library since the Wii, and I do not say that lightly. I already picked mine up, and dear God, this thing better work better, because I'm already kind of pissed that I'm essentially buying it just to have a more functional way to play my good PS4 games. Keep up the good work, Sony. But also, like, f*** off with the bad work, Sony. Well, here we are, the moment we've all been waiting for. It's that time of the video where I predictably rant and rave about how much I love the Switch. I don't really like the Switch that much. Don't get me wrong, I do like it, I like every Nintendo console, but maybe for the first time in Nintendo history, I don't love it. This was honestly an embarrassingly hard pill to swallow, but the more I think about the Switch, the less I like it. First, I should probably talk about the positives though. Obviously, this is the most success Nintendo has seen in a while, and will probably pass the 3DS in terms of sales, which makes me pretty happy. The console's gimmick is also genius because it's kind of not even a gimmick. As much as I personally enjoyed weird stuff like the motion controls and gamepad, they were undeniably alienating to some people, but just having the thing also be able to be a handheld is pure functionality, and it's cool. And then of course the game library is pretty damn extensive for a sub 4-year-old system. I legitimately already own way more Switch games than Wii U games. And to top it all off, most people seem to feel that they're putting out the best, most creative and fun games they have in decades, if not ever. And I desperately wish that I was one of these people. Look, if we're talking games like Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, then I absolutely agree. Odyssey is insane fun, and to me, easily displays the best main series Mario's been in at least 10 years, and Breath of the Wild is just about the only Zelda game I legitimately enjoyed. In fact, I kind of loved it. Splatoon 2 marks a huge improvement over the original and goes on to sell so well it's basically a top-tier Nintendo series now. I love Mario Maker 2, everyone seems to be having a blast with Animal Crossing, and Smash has brought in so many characters it may legally qualify for statehood. Then Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is just chillin', like hey, no big deal, I'm just the most beautiful game on the console with insane levels of polish, more tracks and characters than any other game in the series, all backed by possibly the best video game soundtrack of all time, and I'm sitting here looking at it thinking, damn, yeah, those 7 games I cherry-picked out of its years on the market are all super good. And just about all the rest I've played are either Wii U ports or massive bummers. So what's going on here? Am I just some sad, pathetic man who's forgotten how to have fun in his old age? Fair point. Or am I actually onto something? If I had to put a descriptor to how I see things, I think I'd say that the Switch is heavily lacking what I've grown to refer to as Nintendo magic. Aside from the fact that it plays the games with Mario's face on the cover, it hardly feels like a Nintendo system to me. And then most of the games that don't feel that way feel heavily lacking in other areas. Mario Tennis Aces, right? Good game. It's got more characters than any other Mario Tennis, it looks and sounds the best, and the gameplay tweaks make the moment-to-moment play so much more interesting. But where's the Nintendo magic? Why are all the menus so clinical? Where are all the crazy court gimmicks? Why did you make us wait upwards of 11 months to play as characters that were already in the game's code from day one? Why is Power Tennis from 16 years ago dancing on this game so hard? Super Mario Party is an example of the opposite. This game is soaked in Nintendo magic, downright radiating with it at points. We've got more characters than ever before, all with unique animations and unique play strategies, on top of some of the most fun mini-games in a while. So then why is this the most dull, lacking Mario Party we've maybe ever gotten? It feels like the exact same problem that ARMS had. 75 modes don't mean much if the only decent ones are thin as paper. And 4 boards? 4 boards? This one from 22 years ago had more, and they were more interesting, and every character dressed up depending on the board you played, and I don't even think 2 is the best one. I mean, yeah, Super is better than the ones with the cars, but that's like saying, oh, thank you for spitting in my food instead of murdering me. If you want to talk second party, why are we getting Pokemon games that are so borderline in terms of quality? I can't say I didn't enjoy them, but I'm a nostalgic shill. If it says Pokemon on the box, I'm probably already walking up to the register with both copies. There should be no debate whether the games are quality or not, and why would I ever buy a third-party game on Switch when the Switch version is almost always significantly, noticeably worse than every other console? I want to support the company as much as I can, but at this point I'd rather just get in the ring with my PS4 and play them all over there. They've pushed me so far that I'm now looking at my most wanted Switch games, like a sequel to Super Sluggers, and thinking, you know, maybe they just shouldn't, because I'm at the point where I straight up lack confidence that they can make a game that good again, and I would rather have no game than another disappointment. You think the company that made this could manage this? I don't think so. I am so glad to see 3D World and Pikmin 3 coming over, because I just want them to run out of games to port. I just want them to be forced to make fun new games. I don't know, am I being too harsh here? Nintendo will most likely have my love and support until the day I die, and yet I've never felt more disconnected and sad about the state of them. And unfortunately, that extends to the console itself too. I find the Joy-Con to be harmless, perfectly usable little controllers, and HD Rumble is a cool thing that definitely reeks of Nintendo. I think they're decently comfortable to hold, I think the motion controls work fine, and I've had no problems with mine. But what's going on with the drift? Why are so many people having so much trouble with their control sticks breaking? And why is it even a question whether they can get them fixed or not? And the console itself, oh, don't even get me started. This may be a bit of a surprise to you. My Nintendo Switch is virtually unusable. It all started back around the beginning of this year when I was playing in handheld mode, and it started to let out this howl. It was nowhere near the tinnitus-inducing blast from the PS4, but it was still annoying enough for me to say, okay, I guess you're a docked-only console now. Then a couple months ago, I was just playing a game I've played a million times, and the bitch overheated. This blew my mind. I never thought I'd live to see the day that a Nintendo system popped up to tell me it was internally failing, but I figured, okay, it's extremely hot where I live a lot of the year, so I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. And then it happened again. And then again. And now the thing can't run a Wii U port for more than like 30 minutes without shutting down from heat in a 50-degree Fahrenheit room. So now I can't play in dock because it overheats, and I kinda can't play out of dock without feeling like I'm playing Pet Hairdryer Simulator. I could easily see people disagreeing with me on the games being disappointing, but this is all absolutely unacceptable. Nah, what are you talking about, Wade? Now it's like all games have hard mode. God, you know what? We're in this far, let's just say it. What's going on with the UI being so goddamn boring? Is this a Nintendo console or a smartphone? Please accept that burn at face value, and please do not research the extensive similarities on a hardware and software level between the Switch and a smartphone. And what's happening with Switch Online? Why did it replace the Virtual Console? This is nowhere near the same thing. Why do so many people have problems with it? It's a paid service now. I know it's like $1.60 a month, but that shouldn't matter. The Nintendo I know would never provide a subpar service and say, what do you expect? It's only $1.60 a month. The Nintendo I know would create a good service first, then charge probably a little more than it's actually worth. So with all that being said, the Switch is absolutely my favorite console this generation. That was probably the most obvious bait and switch of all time, but yeah, I didn't have the most negative things to say about Nintendo because I think they're doing particularly worse than everyone else, but rather just because I'm the most passionate about them. They release a frustrating console, and I take up over 5 minutes of a video ranting about it because I know they can be so much better. Sony releases a frustrating console, and I say, who f***ing cares? It can still play Crash, right? Obviously, from a sales perspective, Sony's wearing the crown this time around, and I have doubts that the Switch will be able to steal it in its lifetime, but for me, this one has Captain Toad, it wins. As for this generation as a whole, I'd say it was alright, definitely not the best we've ever had, but also, we've definitely been much lower. I think the best word to describe it overall is frustrating, so hopefully they can take the parts that were actually amazing and carry them over to a more consistent, even more phenomenal 9th generation. We'll surely see the end of the Switch in that time, as well as the birth of a new Nintendo console, and if Microsoft ends up having put out another frustrating console, then I'll just keep on saying, what the f*** is an Xbox?